Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on, Jesse, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Can't complain, all is well. The program is going to be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you know that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living, please.
Yeah, I'm a voiceover actor. So I voice mainly commercials and corporate explainer videos, and I voice a TV show that I'm not sure if you can find it in Bulgaria, but it's definitely on Hulu and History Channel in Canada and the US. It's called Backroad Truckers. It's a docu-series that follows a bunch of crazy Canadian truckers as they deliver goods and services across the backwoods and the mountains of Canada in the mud, in the winter, through freezing cold. And I get to narrate it. And it was like a dream job. It was really cool.
It is not a cool, and there's this game. I forgot the name of the game, but it was like Mud Trucker or something like that that you have to navigate through there. You have to be very careful. I assume
Yeah.
it's something like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's interesting narrating it because they've already shot the show and they like swear a lot. So like sometimes when
Woohoo!
but like yeah, so like when I'm narrating, sometimes they'll say the most insane things because I have
Yeah.
to listen to what they're saying so I can do the narration in between. And like sometimes it'll take like 15 takes for me to get it right because I keep laughing at what they're saying in between. I won't risk saying what they say sometimes. I don't want to offend
Yeah,
anyone.
please don't. But in all fairness, truckers are like that worldwide. I mean, I've been.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Truckers, trucker mouth, right?
yeah.
Um, so how I got into voiceover, it's an interesting story. So before I got into voiceover, I was a stand-up comedian for about 10 years. And
Pretty
then
good.
yeah, and I traveled all over Canada, the US, did Australia 2 years in a row. I did the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, biggest comedy festival in the world, second biggest. And I decided that it was just I'd achieved everything I wanted to in comedy, and I kind of fell out of love with it, as you do sometimes.
Yeah.
So I went back to Canada after Australia, and I tried to get back into acting. It's something I tried to do in my early 20s, but the streaming services weren't around, and I lived in Vancouver, and there wasn't a lot of work there. So that's how I ended up getting into comedy. So when I go back to Canada from Australia after I decided I wasn't going to do comedy anymore, I tried to get back into acting because acting was booming in Vancouver. The streaming services, Netflix, they're all filming there. Only the career wasn't really taking off the way I'd hoped. So on the side, I was managing a nightclub, and I was at the time I was getting to like my mid to late 30s, and I knew managing a nightclub wasn't really gonna last
In
at
all
all.
fairness, right now you look like you're 22. So, you know, I'm
Thanks.
just saying. So,
I'm 44.
well, pretty good. Which leads me to two conclusions. Either you're doing exactly what you love to do and you have this perfect inner peace, or you're sleeping in a refrigerator, or both. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm from Canada, so we all sleep in refrigerators there. But
I knew there was something about it.
no, you know what? I mean, I think a lot of it has to attribute to the fact I spend so much time in comedy, and I've always been, I laugh at things that happen to me, or some of them not so good. And laughter is always the best medicine, and it keeps you young.
I absolutely agree with you
Yeah.
100%.
And that's
In
one of
all
the
fairness, if it weren't for sense of humor, I'd go crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the people out there that are the most difficult to deal with in life are the ones that have no sense of humor. And I feel for them. I do. So I just try to be as funny as I can around them. Usually annoys them, but um
As a comedian, maybe that's a good test for you. Uh, if you can ever make a crowd of Germans laugh, then you're a pretty good comedian. You're pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I was in between doing the festivals in Australia, I was in New Zealand for a bit, and I was staying in a hostel. And I forget his name. I think his name was Hunts. He was this German guy. He was the funniest dude I've ever met in my entire life. He wasn't a stand-up comedian, but his humor was so like nothing I'd ever seen before. German humor. He'd show me like these videos and stuff of like German comedians or things that he thought were funny, and I would just like howl for hours. Like Germans, like they're fun people. They have a different sense of humor.
They have different sense of humor, but I know the British also have different sense of humor, but there is
They
somewhat
do.
universal, like adorable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. The British, they've got a really biting sense of humor. They like to make fun of people and like a
They
really
do.
like, they got like a mean undertone. But
And they often ended like making fun of themselves as well to nullify the damage.
yeah, 100%. I think that's important. If you make fun of other people, you definitely have to make fun of yourself too. Otherwise, you seem like a jerk.
Absolutely.
Um,
I
so when I was
like
working in,
talking to folks like you, and I had another guest similar, but he was more he was a painter. I love talking to people like you because you have that inner spark, to say it that way. Like you, folks like you, artists in general, you can do a 9 to 5 job, but it's like putting you through hell
yeah,
because your spirit is different, right? I hope I'm making sense.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. I'll tell you this, even when I was working in the nightclub, like it was fun for a long time. I mean, I managed nightclubs from aside from doing comedy and acting, like for a long time, like part-time for about 20 years. And then it kind of became a full-time job. And because it was corporate and there's certain procedures you have to follow, it became not fun at all. That's why I always had to have acting or comedy or eventually voiceover because as I was getting older, I actually lost my job in the nightclub. And I was suddenly like, oh my God, I got to figure something out long term because eventually, soon, like, you can't be 50 or even 40 is a little bit old to be in a
yeah.
nightclub unless you own it. You know what I mean? And I didn't. So, with no job at the time, I was like, okay, well, I need to find a side hustle. And I was looking online and just started Googling side hustles. And I saw that people were doing voiceover from home. And it's something that I always, always, always wanted to do. I just had no idea to get started, like a lot of people. I didn't know you could actually do it from home. And I started watching like videos and reading blogs how to set up a home studio. So I had like a little den area in my apartment. And I put like, because first thing you have to do is set up your home studio and you have to eliminate reflections from
Yeah.
podcasting. I'm sure you can hear sometimes if you that you can hear like echoes or reflections from the sound. So you have to dampen that. So I took all of the cushions off my couches and blankets and like pinned them to the walls in this room and tried to make it so it sounded like a sound studio. It was really budget at first, but it worked. I rented all my gear because I didn't have any money. And then I got on this website you might be familiar with. It's pretty worldwide called Fiverr, where it's people do
Yeah.
gigs. When I started, it was you could only charge $5, but then you could upsell a whole bunch. So I got on there initially to learn how to do voiceover by charging $5 for a ton of words. So I'd get used to working with clients and I would understand how to record and edit professionally. And I got so much experience over the course of a month by just charging $5 for these micro jobs that I was able to excel in voiceover really quickly, as well as I got a bit of money so I could upgrade all my equipment and gear and set out my studio. In the second month, I started getting on online casting sites where like voices.com and voice123, where they have actual real auditions where you can book jobs that are anywhere from like $200 all the way up to thousands.
That's
And
pretty good.
yeah, so like when I got on there, everything changed. So my first month on Fiverr, I was making, I think my first month I made like $50. It wasn't anything at all, but it was enough that I was like, the spark went off. I'm like, if someone's paying me even $5, I'm like, I bet I could get them to pay me 10 or 20 or 30 or 100 just on a larger scale. I just got to get better. And then the first time in my second month that I got booked a job and it was like $400. And then I booked another one the same day that was $400, $800 in one day. And it took me 20 minutes each to record these jobs, less than an hour, $800. I'm like, I could do like 10 of these in a day, potentially if I booked them. So then I really put in the effort. And by the third month, I was making more in voiceover than I was in my management job at the nightclub. And then it started like really snowballing from there. And it's been my focus since. Yeah. That was
That story reminds me. I don't know if you've watched it. Maybe I'm pretty sure you've at least heard that movie, Highlander. It's with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Do you know the story about the voicing?
Yeah. I remember Sean Connery said, "Remember Highlander? You called me." That's a terrible Sean Connery, but
No. But how they picked the voice? Do you know the story?
No, I don't.
Sean Connery's agent was calling him about that role, and he was like, "But you have to do a specific voice, like it's from another dimension." He was like, "How am I supposed to do that?" But he was in the bathroom when he was talking to that. where are you now? Like, in the bathroom, washing my hands. Why? Stay there and just read the lines, all right? So he was in the bathroom reading the lines, and from the echo, and this is how you get this intro, like about the highland, about the immortals, and there can be only one. That's how it happened, actually. And there are many interviews about it, so that reminded me about that.
That's amazing. That's a really cool story.
And you have basically the identical story now. So
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. Like sometimes when there's something that you try and it fits so well and you kind of fall into it by accident, you realize that it was meant to happen.
yeah,
I started doing voiceover, and it was such like an accident from like losing my job to getting all this budget equipment and trying to set up, and it just kept happening, and it was like I wouldn't say that it was easy because it took a lot of work, but it felt easy because so many things that you try in life, like it's really difficult to get going, and you get a lot of pushback. And
yeah, that's why I told you about the spark that I see in folks like you, because you cannot be in the entertainment business. You can't be an actor, painter, composer. You can't be there only for the money, because in all fairness, the huge majority of the folks from that sector aren't really, they don't have this glamorous lifestyle that is displayed on TV. Of course, there are some, of course, no argument about that. But the huge majority are there because they really can't help it. It's who they are. So that's basically what I've noticed. And I've been telling this story about a neighbor of mine. He's a composer, and he literally dreams about it. He wakes up, he puts some notes on a piece of paper, he reviews them in the morning. I told him that I will kill him if he's my roommate, because you can't just wake up everybody at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's inhumane. But and the reason I love talking to folks like you is because the third question, how did you knew this was the way to go, automatically is nullified, because that's who you are. You basically can't help that. That's really who you are. So I really admire that. But however, it's like that in Asia and in Europe, and I'm pretty certain that it's like that in the United States as well. Folks tend to go to colleges and universities because of that stigma that you have to have a diploma to secure your future, which is ridiculous. That's not true. I know pretty well-educated people who honestly are not doing well at all for various reasons. I know folks with barely high school degree, and they're doing pretty well in life. So it's not about the diploma. And in Europe, most of the universities, most of the colleges are incredibly cheap. I graduated a private college, and I was working as a bartender when I was there, and I paid for the whole thing with myself.
Bartending, right on.
So that was a private college. I'm not even going to talk about the public one.
Yeah, you can't do that in Canada or US. No way.
Yes. So the problem is not about the money. The problem is about losing time. And a lot of folks are going to those universities and colleges, studying something that it's clearly not for them. And afterwards, they start a job related to what they studied that is clearly not for them. That's making them miserable. Or the alternative, they go over there and they start a job that has nothing to do with the college degree at all, which is, again, a loss of time, because if you work on something that you don't need the education, well, you didn't need the education to begin with. And for the record, I am not against colleges. I'm not against universities. I myself, I have a master's degree. I'm about to start a PhD soon. So obviously I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with young people losing their time and ended up at 22, 23, 24, freshly starting a job, no work ethics, fake expectations because of that stigma that now that I have a diploma, people owe me something. No, they don't. And I don't know if you've noticed those examples in the US as well. And basically, I made the channel especially for those people.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a great idea. I think more and more people are getting disillusioned with college. And I think it's a place that you can go, college and university, to get some really good education, but it does not guarantee you anything.
No, it doesn't
at all. And I think people need to separate the idea more of that you go there to get an education that's going to get you the job. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to have to grind and figure out what you want to do in life. And hopefully that aligns with the education you're getting in college and university. But then you have to re-educate yourself for like how the world actually works once you get outside of it. There's deals that are made with people that don't have any kind of MBA whatsoever. It's a handshake and, I'll buy your business for you. And a lot of the times you don't even need money down to buy a business, which is something I've been researching myself because I'm trying to expand as well from doing voiceover to becoming business owner. And I don't have an MBA, but I've learned so much in the last little while just from reading books. You know, there's a lot of great people out there that have written some amazing books, and they put down literally all of their knowledge. There's a YouTuber called Cody Sanchez, and she talks about stealing other people's 10,000 hours by taking courses and by reading their books. And you really can. You can get so much information that way. And it
Yeah,
doesn't cost a lot of time. Listen to audiobooks while you're walking outside in the nice weather or out in a boat rowing.
absolutely. And and I've seen it. I even had a girl here on the program. She actually told me how she went to the university because her parents basically forced her to do that. She hated it. She took a couple of courses, you know, on the side. Now she's working something completely different. Her parents didn't talk to her for a while after she dropped from the university because they were embarrassed of her. I was like that's blackmail. You can't just, you know, force me to do something. That I was 16 when I knew exactly what I'm going to do with my life and
Yeah.
what kind of job will I have. But I'm actually the minority here. And a lot of people are not like that.
Really? Okay.
And, you know, that's why I love talking to people like you, because have you always knew that you were like that? That you have to be involved in art, in acting or something like that? Or did you see something and then you moved in another direction?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've always liked performing and having fun. And it so happened that acting and comedy really aligns with that. So it's something I've always wanted to do my whole life, even when I wasn't like either on stage performing or auditioning or doing a play or anything like that. I would always like joke around with my friends and just always seeking out to have fun because I think that's what life's about. And I grew up really, really poor and I've never had anything in my entire life, which is kind of a blessing in a way. Sure,
Yeah.
like when you're a kid, you get a little bit of FOMO because you see other kids get to cool things like travel to Europe or join sports that are really expensive, and then I didn't get to a lot. Sometimes I did, but not a lot of them. So I didn't really have that privilege. But what that does is it sets your expectations really, really low, and you get to create your own fun.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages of that is if things go wrong in your life or you end up in a position where, you know, you're financially in trouble, it doesn't phase you because you've been there before. So
I remember,
it makes you fearless.
yeah, and I remember that story was because there was a severe crisis here around 2006, 7, 8, something like that. I was a teenager and I wanted to go to the gym. I was 8 or 9th grade, something like that, and I was never really into gyms. And I went to my parents. I said, "Can I have money for a gym card?" And my father like, "No." I like, "Why?" Now we were in a bad financial situation, but they didn't want me to know. And my father, "Look at all the Greek and the Roman sculptures on the back. You think they did that in a gym? And start doing push-ups and chin-ups. Get out of here." So actually, and even till this day, I'm doing push-ups and chin-ups. And when it's warm, I'm doing boat rowing. So
Nice.
that's where I get that from.
Nice. That's really cool.
And also another thing, because you've been through a lot. You've seen this and that. Now in voice acting, as a comedian, you've traveled around the world, clubbing and everything, managing clubs and everything. Do you happen to have any words of wisdom for the folks that are actually not aware of what they want to do and how they want to do it?
Yeah, 100%. I would actually say two things.
Pretty good.
One, I would address to anybody under the age of 35. Do anything that you want to do right now. Make as many mistakes as you possibly can. It doesn't matter. Until you're like 35, unless you have kids, there's like literally no consequence. You can pick everything back up. Don't worry about ending up homeless. It's never going to happen unless you have like some kind of addiction problem. In that case,
Yeah.
get help. But I'm just saying, like, experience as much as you can while you're young. Now, let's say you're 35 and over. Let's say you're even 50. It's never too late to start all over again and try something new. Like even myself, like I'm 44, and just about 2 years ago, I dropped everything in Vancouver. I had my part-time nightclub job there, all of my voiceover contacts. I had an agent for acting. Things were going well, and I dropped it all to move to New York City and start all over again from scratch with new agents, new people, new friends, because I wanted to get to a different level and have different experiences. And everything has been going fantastic. sometimes you get a little bit of bumps in the road, but that's part of the adventure. I think
Yeah.
life is meant to be lived as an adventure. I look at some of the people that I'm close with or family, and they don't have any adventure in their life, and you can see it. The spark goes out. The whole idea of living your life a certain way and then having a white picket fence or having kids and having it streamlined, it seems like death to me. It feels to me that that's the quickest way to your grave. I love that you can literally stop doing anything that you don't like doing today and start doing something else tomorrow.
I 100% agree with you. Years ago, I had this conversation with a fellow. He was working in a factory. It's been he was like, and the factory closed. He was about 50 something. And like, I have 32 years of experience. I can't find another job. I said, you don't have 32. You got 1 year of experience, and you've been doing the same thing over and over and over. You're not good at anything. I mean, I wouldn't hire you. You wouldn't hire yourself. So, don't complain and you learn new things. Actually, he learned how to drive a truck. He learned how to drive, the pitchfork and everything. So yeah, but people sometimes need that extra push.
Yeah, like if you find yourself in a position, and I have many times in my life where, your source of income is gone or your job is gone or you don't know what you're going to do. Those are some of the turns out to be some of the best times that you'll ever face, because in the face of adversity, you will rise to the occasion because you have no other choice. You'll find resources that you didn't know you had. You'll create skills that you didn't know that you had the ability to obtain. Like adversity is the best teacher in life.
I agree. And this is why in a matter, and I hope it doesn't sound rude because that's not my intention.
Sure.
I think COVID was a good thing, for those that didn't die.
Yeah, I know what
Because
you mean. Yeah.
before COVID, the world was spinning way too fast. I literally almost don't remember anything between 2015 and 2020. And I bought I purchased apartments during that time. I was involved in various projects and businesses. My regular job aside, I was involved in real estate. And with all that going on, I didn't live at all. I mean, I got some weekends here and there. A couple of times I visit the Black Sea during summer, but that's about it. And when I was on vacation, I was so exhausted that I basically moved from the bed to the beach and from the beach to the bed. That's about it. And this kind of forced stop, it kind of helped people to reflect on themselves, to look into themselves. I don't know how things were in Canada and in the US, but here we're pretty loose, so we didn't really have that much of a lockdown. Like for a couple of months, we were, in the homes, and afterwards we were wearing the masks, around the wrists, because nobody wants this around the face.
No, man. The lockdowns in Canada were pretty intense, but it was very similar in the fact that everybody I knew was like reevaluating their life.
Yeah.
The jobs, if they didn't like their jobs, a lot of people during the 2 years learned new skills and figured out how to work from home and turn their side hustles into full-time jobs. Like for my in voiceover, I've been making over six figures in voiceover since I started, but I always held on to the nightclub job because I was just, I just
the safety net.
The safety net, but it also wasn't doing my health any favors because you're working in a nightclub drinking and you're there till 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not good for you, and I need to let it go. And COVID forced that to happen because all the nightclubs closed down in North America, every single one, and it was never to come back.
That big.
Yeah, like everything locked down. Like you couldn't go out. They tried to open up a couple times, but then they just got shut down for at least a year. And
it was a blessing in disguise for you. I can tell you that much.
100%, because during that time, like I decided I wanted to move to New York City, and I wanted to come here to study with this acting coach named Terry Knickerbocker, and he coached like Sam Rockwell, Daniel Craig, like all these stars, and I wanted to learn the technique that he teaches. And at the time I was like, can I even afford to do this? I'm like, COVID's going on, who cares? Just roll the dice, see what happens.
Pretty good.
What's the worst that can happen? And it's completely changed my life. And I don't think that would have happened if it wasn't for COVID. I don't think I would have been. I've been pretty daring in my life, but to do something like that, just uproot my life, like COVID was pretty radical. And I think it gave me the confidence, or at least Let's try it. Roll the dice. See what happens.
And it was 100% worth it. I can tell that much. With that
Yeah.
said, Jesse, huge thank you for being with me. I love the
No problem.
conversation, wisdom, and everything. Please don't forget to put me all of your links, videos. I'm going to put them in the description below, and I'll ping you when I upload the video.
Okay, great. Thanks, Danny.
Right
All
on. Bye, sir.
Nice talking to you. Later.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.